Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, we're really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So, our podcast is for people who want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. And today, we're going to give you 5 tips on how to overcome your fear of public speaking and be a great communicator when you speak in public. So, public speaking, very common fear. Survey after survey shows that public speaking is the number one fear of the majority of the population. The number 2 fear is death. In fact, Jerry Seinfeld has a bit where he says, by that logic, if you were at a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. So you can see, when you look at it like that, what a silly thing it is. Because it's just speaking. You're just talking to people. Now, we've been experienced public speakers for a long time, and it's something that's never bothered us. And we can share some of the tips we use to be effective as a public speaker. And then we're going to share some other tips that people who are afraid of public speaking or have fear of public speaking, and give you 5 tips to use so you can incorporate those tips and tricks into your repertoire and become a more effective public speaker. Being able to communicate to groups will have a huge impact on your personal and professional life. So you got to do the hard swallow. You got to overcome your fear, and you got to get out there and do it. But we're not going to send you out there unarmed. We're going to give you 5 tips that you can use. So with that, let's just jump into it here. Tip number 1 is to prepare and practice, just like anything you want to get good at. You do it. You got good at math by doing your math homework. You got good at driving by driving more. You got good at reading by reading more. Same exact thing with public speaking. Because the fear is driven largely by uncertainty. What's going to happen? What do I say? Am I going to have all the right words, et cetera, et cetera? Take it out of the equation. Practice it and have it ready before you even go, so you know exactly what you're going to say and how you're going to approach it. That preparation will build confidence. So even if you know the topic really well that you're speaking on, research it thoroughly. Make sure you know it forwards and backwards. That inner confidence that I know this material will be super helpful and allow you to speak with conviction when you speak on it. So that is key. Even if you do know it really well, create an easy to follow outline with key points to make sure that as you're speaking, you can look down at your index cards or whatever materials you've prepared to help you stay on topic. You can do that. We do an outline before every episode that we put together, and we refer to that outline as we go through the episode to make sure we don't miss any of our key points. And then rehearse it multiple times. Rehearse it by yourself. Rehearse it in front of a mirror. Rehearse it to an audience. Rehearse it to your spouse. Rehearse it to your family. Rehearse it to your friends. Practice, practice, practice. Practice while you're in the car. Practice while you're in bed at night. There's lots of ways you can practice and get better, but that preparation and practice will build confidence in you, and it'll show when you go to give whatever speech or presentation or talk that you're going to give. So, there's TEDx speakers who have talked about practicing in front of their friends to get comfortable before they step on a big stage. And that's great. We've been on big stages before. It doesn't really intimidate or bother us. But if it does you, then try and build a little audience and do it in front of a little audience first, a friendly audience, so you can build that confidence. Professionals that do this for a living rehearse presentations in their car while they're driving, like we talked about. There's all sorts of ways and places that you can rehearse and practice. The more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be with the material, the more comfortable you're going to be with your approach, and that confidence is going to help you to communicate effectively when you give whatever talk it is that you're giving. So that's tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2, start small and build up. You don't have to give the presidential address after the inauguration as your first speech. Start with small meetings at work. Low stakes environments, right? The stakes are small. You don't feel as bad if you say something silly, you lose your place, you mess up, whatever. Small meetings at work, small social groups. Volunteer to introduce someone at an event. That's an easy thing to do. Maybe you're in a wedding and you have to give a toast. That's a great place to practice. Speaking of which, you could join a Toastmasters group or attend local networking events. Those are great places to learn to speak publicly and practice speaking publicly. It gives you a low stakes, friendly environment where you feel comfortable trying out new things and experimenting, so that as you move to higher stakes presentations, work presentations, maybe you're a keynote speaker at an event. As you move towards those, you have all of those repetitions under your belt. So real world example, there's entrepreneurs out there that have to go pitch to raise money for their company. They have to pitch to hire people for their company. You start small at little groups, at business meetings, at, 3, 5, 7 person meetings, and then build that up to the point where, hey, you know what? I'm comfortable getting up in front of 1,000 people and having these conversations because I've done this a lot. I've practiced it a lot, and I feel pretty good about where I'm at. So tip number 2, start small, work your way up. Just like math, you didn't start with calculus. You started with addition and subtraction, then moved to multiplication and division, then algebra, then trigonometry, then geometry, and so on and so forth. Same thing applies for public speaking. Start small, slowly raise the stakes. That's the way to do it. Okay, tip number 3. As you prepare to go speak, use deep breathing and visualization. This is very common in the athletic world. That's one of the examples we'll give is athletes use visualization all the time before games to visualize themselves being successful. They visualize themselves in high pressure situations performing really well so that it's not new to them. They've experienced it in their head already, and now they just need to manifest that experience into real life. So we're big fans of what we call the cleansing breath. That's one breathing exercise. Deep breath in through the nose, hold it for a second, out through the mouth. Right? Do 5 of those. It resets your nervous system. It calms you down. It allows you to control your breathing, which is really key to being a good speaker. If you lose your breath or you're out of breath or you're fighting for breath while you're speaking, it's going to show. It's going to make you look nervous. It's going to make you look unprepared. It's going to make you look overwhelmed. And that's not what you want in a public speaking environment. Another breathing technique is called the 4-7-8 breathing method. So inhale for 4 seconds. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold it for 7 seconds. After you inhale, hold that breath for 7 seconds and then exhale it for 8. Very similar to what we're talking about with the cleansing breath. That will reset your nervous system, your central nervous system. It will help you control your breathing. It'll help you feel in control of your overall situation, your body, your mental outlook. Everything will feel better after you do that. And I can't tell you how many athletes we know, and we were fortunate enough to play athletics at a pretty high level, that visualize, that prepare, that do breathing exercises, that meditate, that do yoga, that do things to calm their mind down, control their breathing, and help them be in control of their physical situation so that they can perform at the level that they need to perform at. So there you go. Tip number 3, breathing, breathing, breathing. Okay, tip number 4, don't focus on yourself and your performance, focus on your audience. So shift the focus from I'm really nervous and worried to, hey, I'm going to deliver value to everybody that's in that audience today, and I want to do a really good job for them. It's not about me looking good or me looking smart. I want to deliver a lot of value to them as the speaker at this event, this meeting, whatever the situation is. So think of yourself as a messenger, not the center of attention. Not everyone's sitting there staring at you. They're collecting information from you, and it's your job to convey that information in a productive and meaningful way. The other thing you can do, and this is something I do a lot, is engage with the audience. You want them involved in your speech or presentation. That's very important. Ask them questions. Use relatable stories, right? I've been married for 32 years. Lots of people are married. They understand stories about your relationship. A lot of people have kids. I have 3 sons. I use stories about my kids. I use stories about my family. I use stories about my life. And you're looking for positive interactions or reactions. People nodding their head, people smiling, people laughing, people nudging their neighbor. Those are all signs that you're connecting with your audience. And by engaging them in your conversation, it makes them focus on what you're saying and draws them in. And you'll be able to feed off of that energy as a speaker. So when I speak, I try to think about what is the message that I want to convey here? What is it that I want to land with the audience? What am I trying to impart to them? Is it knowledge? Is it information? Is it introspection? What do I want them to walk away from my speech or my presentation thinking about or having available to them? So if you focus on the audience, it's a great way to go because it takes your focus off of you and your insecurities and your anxieties and your worries, and it focuses you on doing a really good job. And the vast majority of people in the world want to wake up and do a really good job at whatever it is they're doing that day. They don't want to half-ass it. They want to knock it out of the park. And if you change your focus from yourself and your worries and anxieties to your audience, that's a great way to kind of get off the dime and really kind of focus on delivering a great presentation. Okay. And then tip number 5, accept that mistakes are going to happen. It's going to happen sometimes. Even professional speakers make mistakes. They say the wrong word. They misspeak. They look stupid sometimes. You got to learn to laugh at the small errors and move forward. So, personal anecdote there. We were given a presentation one time and we had to present to a bunch of customers. There's about 500 people at this presentation and they did not want to receive the information I was going to give them. We were essentially telling them, you don't get to buy this brand anymore. You now have to buy this other brand because we bought it and we're putting it into all our warehouses instead of the brand you're currently buying. And all these customers had the opportunity to buy this brand previously and had chosen not to. So I had to deliver that message. And I didn't put the deck together. I didn't get a chance to double check the deck. The morning of the presentation, there was a huge ice storm. So the people that were supposed to be presenting with me were not able to get there. I got there on time, but nobody else did. But most of the audience did. So I had to give the full presentation. The deck goes up on the board and the names of the brands are wrong. So I had to, in front of 500 people, kind of gracefully say, got it. Everyone understands that we're talking about brands X and brand Y. Sorry about the mistake on the presentation, but we all know what we're here to talk about. And we all know that you're not real excited to listen to me talk. And I got a chuckle out of the audience because I acknowledged it and it kind of took the air out of the room right away. But when you do make a mistake, there's other things you can do. So that one is just acknowledge it. Just fall on your sword. Say, yeah, we screwed that up. That's our bad. Another one is just pause, take a deep breath, and keep going forward. Like it is what it is. So, when someone farts in church, we don't stop and single that person out and go, what the hell are you doing? Everybody kind of chuckles and or clutches their pearls, and the pastor keeps going. That's the way it works. Then the other thing you can do is just make sure you got notes handy so that if you do screw up and it causes you to lose your train of thought, you can refer to your notes and keep moving forward. I personally like to just acknowledge those things because it takes a lot of the air out of the room. It releases the tension that can sometimes build up when either you have to deliver a message that's not going to be well received, you're giving news that they don't want to hear, or you just say something silly or stupid. We bought a business and we had to go talk to the people who worked at the business that we bought. And I structured my presentation so that I discussed compensation and benefits first. I didn't talk about who we were. I didn't talk about our company at all. I wanted to get right to what I knew the people wanted to know. Am I still going to have a job? Is my pay going to get cut? And do I have to change my benefits? So I addressed those 3 things first. Very first thing I did. And then I moved into our company and who I am and et cetera, et cetera. And even if you screw up in those things, just acknowledge it. Just say, yeah, we screwed that up. That's our fault. You don't have to beat yourself up about it. You don't have to over apologize for it. Just acknowledge it. Acknowledge the mistake happened, apologize for the mistake, and move forward. So you see this a lot with comedians who kick the punchline. They step on the punchline of a joke, or the setup goes sideways, or whatever. They just acknowledge it, make fun of themselves, and move on. It's a great way to go. So those are the 5 tips that we've got for you today, guys. Let's just recap them real quick. Prepare and practice. Tip number 1. Tip number 2, start small and build up. Tip number 3, use deep breathing and visualization to set yourself up for success. Tip number 4, change the focus from you to the audience and the value you're trying to deliver to the audience. And tip number 5 is accept the mistakes are going to happen, acknowledge them, and move forward. So those are all things you can do to overcome your fear of public speaking, to be successful as a public speaker, and to give yourself the best chance of really connecting with your audience and delivering a great message. So we hope you find those useful. We know they work. We've spoken public a lot. We get told frequently that we're a very effective communicator in public. And a lot of it's because we're direct, we're straightforward. We don't try to sound smart. We don't speak too much about a bunch of crap that nobody wants to listen to. Get to the point, convey the information you need to convey, show energy, show enthusiasm, show conviction, and you'll do just fine. So James puts it up over here every day. Don't forget to go to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes are available there. We've got links to all of our social media accounts there. And we publish a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to on our website as well. So that's it. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, please, 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 if you can, to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful for us if you're able to do that. So that's it. It's very, very cold and snowy where we're at. I hope it's warm where you are. And if not, try to stay warm, try to stay safe. Appreciate you checking out the episode, and we'll see you guys on the next one.